On August 28, 1984, Elisabeth Fritzl, an 18-year-old girl living in the quiet town of Amstetten, Austria, suddenly disappeared. Her father, Josef Fritzl, told the police that his daughter had run away from home, something she had done once. Before, when she was younger, he presented a handwritten letter allegedly from Elisabeth, in which she stated she was tired of her family life and had joined a religious cult. The police believed him, a 49-year-old retired architect, a seemingly model citizen with a gentle wife and 7 children. No one knew that on the very day Elisabeth disappeared, she had been tricked by her own father into the basement of their house, where he locked the door behind her, marking the beginning of 24 years of hell underground. Years before, Josef Fritzl had secretly built a hidden basement chamber with a steel door weighing over 500 kilograms, soundproofed and thermally insulated, concealed behind a bookshelf in the main basement. Inside was a narrow corridor leading to a cramped 60-square-meter living space with no windows. Low ceilings, no natural light. The air was damp and suffocating, a biological prison meticulously pre-planned. No one, not even his wife, knew of its existence. Fritzl often claimed he needed quiet time in the basement to avoid disturbance. This was where Elisabeth was imprisoned, completely cut off from the outside world. No birdsong, no sunlight, no hope. From the day she was imprisoned in 1984, Elisabeth Fritzl ceased to be a free person. She became the victim of an unthinkable series of crimes lasting 24 years, where the abuser was none other than her biological father, Josef Fritzl. In that dark, concrete, underground bunker, Fritzl raped Elisabeth repeatedly, nearly every day, for years. He controlled her every move, what she ate, when she slept, how she lived. No one but him could access the place. No one heard her screams. The soundproofed walls silenced all, giving birth in darkness from 1988 to 2003. Elisabeth became pregnant 7 times, all due to her father's repeated rapes. There were no doctors, no medicine, no help. Every time she went into labor, she gave birth alone on a rusty bed, with a body broken by abuse in filth and damp air. Each child was a product of horror, yet Elisabeth tried to love and raise them like any mother would, in darkness, in pain. 1988. Elisabeth's first baby died within days due to respiratory failure. Josef coldly burned the body in the house furnace to destroy evidence. 1989 to 1992, she gave birth to Kirsten. Then Stefan, both raised in the bunker with her. Kirsten's teeth decayed from lack of light, her skin pale like a corpse. 1993, Elisabeth delivered Lisa, a healthy baby girl. Josef decided to bring her upstairs, pretending the baby was abandoned on his doorstep, with a forged letter begging the family to care for her. 1994, a premature baby boy, Michael, was born weak and died within 3 days. Elisabeth begged Josef to take him to the hospital, but he refused and burned the body instead. 1996, baby Monica was born and also raised upstairs by the grandparents, who didn't know the child was their biological grandchild. 2002, Elisabeth gave birth to twins. Only one, Alexander, survived. He was also found on the doorstep with a fake letter. 2003, the youngest, Felix, was kept in the bunker because Josef was too tired to fake another child abandonment. A never-ending nightmare. Elisabeth lived in constant terror, not just from the rapes, but from the threats. Fritzl often warned that he would kill her and the children if she tried to escape. He installed an electric door system and 8 layers of security, making escape impossible. Yet throughout the decades, Elisabeth clung to her humanity. She taught her children to read, write, and do math using old books. Helped them track time using artificial light mimicking day and night. Asterisk stayed composed when a child died. To prevent the others from panicking, her world was limited to 4 moldy walls, the stench of human waste, flickering fluorescent light, and the haunting presence of her rapist, her own father. No holidays, no friends, no escape. A hell kept hidden, no one suspected anything. Police searched for Elisabeth for years, but Josef repeated the same narrative. She ran off with a cult. She sent a letter saying not to look. The 3 children, raised upstairs, were cared for like adopted children. The government even praised Fritzl for taking in abandoned kids. Meanwhile, Elisabeth slowly lost her youth, health, and hope. But she never lost courage for her children, for the dream of freedom, while Elisabeth and 3 of her children were imprisoned underground. Fritzl lived a normal life above. Neighbors saw him as strict but polite. His wife, Rosemarie, had no idea what was happening below their home. Fritzl frequently traveled for days at a time, leaving Elisabeth and the children to survive on minimal food. She continued educating them with discarded books he brought down. Their knowledge came solely through oral stories and old paper. No music, no television, no outside contact. In early 2008, after 19 years of confinement, Kirsten, Elisabeth's eldest daughter, became critically ill. At 19, she had never seen a doctor, never stepped outside. She suffered from seizures, unconsciousness, labored breathing, and life-threatening blood infections. Severe vitamin D deficiency due to lack of sunlight had caused her kidneys to begin failing. Elisabeth panicked. Despite fearing her father's wrath, she begged him, "Please take her to the hospital. She's going to die." At first, Fritzl refused, afraid any contact with the medical system would expose the horror he'd hidden for decades. But as Kirsten's condition worsened, he relented, not out of compassion, but out of fear that a death might bring more suspicion. On April 19, 2008, Josef Fritzl carried Kirsten out of the bunker for the first time. He told the hospital she was an abandoned child left on his doorstep like the others. Doctors were perplexed. Kirsten had no medical records, no birth certificate, no vaccination history. She didn't exist in Austria's system. A ghost. Her condition was dire, and doctors requested to speak with her mother. But who was the mother? This ambiguity, coupled with Kirsten's mysterious condition, raised red flags in the medical community, the local government, and eventually the press. Austrian newspapers began to question, who is this girl? Why has no one ever heard of her? From this first crack, the monstrous iceberg of Fritzl's crimes began to crumble. Facing growing pressure from the hospital, police, and media, Josef Fritzl realized his lies couldn't hold. He concocted another scenario. On April 26, 2008, 8 days after Kirsten was hospitalized, Fritzl miraculously appeared with Elisabeth and the 2 remaining underground children. He claimed Elisabeth had returned from her mysterious cult and brought the kids to visit their sister in the hospital. But this was the moment Elisabeth had waited for over 24 years. At the hospital, under the watchful eyes of police and medical staff, Elisabeth was interviewed privately. At first, she remained silent, exhausted, and disoriented after years in darkness. But then, she began to speak, and the nightmare was unveiled. She recounted everything in 1984. At age 18, her father drugged and imprisoned her in the basement. Asterisk, he raped her hundreds, thousands of times. She gave birth to 7 children, one of whom died shortly. After birth, 3 children were taken upstairs as adopted. 3 others remained in the bunker with her. Fritzl threatened to electrocute or burn them alive if they resisted. Police couldn't believe what they heard. It sounded like horror fiction. But as they followed Elisabeth's testimony into the basement, they found everything matched. Soundproof doors, cramped, filthy rooms with no sunlight, old toys and children's items, a makeshift kitchen, beds, and toilet. Documents tapes, recordings, evidence of a two-decade hell. Fritzl was arrested immediately. The story of the monster within the family exploded across the globe. And Elisabeth, after 24 years of darkness, finally saw the light. On April 27, 2008, police stormed the basement. Behind the thick steel door, twisted corridors, electronic locks, and artificial ventilation was a space like something from a nightmare. Moldy air, low oxygen. Crude living conditions, the place where Elisabeth and her children lived unseen for 24 years. Fritzl was arrested and, after initial denial, confessed to all charges in 2009. Josef Fritzl was charged with 6 major crimes: unlawful imprisonment, rape, incest, murder, coercion, and enslavement. He was sentenced to life in prison and is currently held in a special facility for mentally ill offenders. Elisabeth and her children were taken to a secure location for treatment and psychological rehabilitation. They began learning to live again, discovering sunlight, colors, sounds, and freedom for the first time. The Fritzl case remains one of the most horrifying crimes of the 21st century. Raising disturbing questions. How long can evil go unnoticed? Right under our noses. How many people are living double lives like Josef Fritzl, and how many children are still waiting to be rescued?